Have you ever wondered why there are people who, the moment they speak, can make an entire room stop and listen? Meanwhile, others, despite talking a lot or speaking loudly, are still ignored or rudely interrupted. It's not because they're smarter, more powerful, or louder. The secret lies in how they communicate, calmly, confidently, and profoundly. So how can you achieve that? How can you make every word you say respected and ensure people listen instead of tuning out? The answer doesn't lie in shouting louder or trying to prove your superiority over others. It's about mastering intelligent communication principles inspired by Stoic philosophy, an art practiced by great philosophers like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca for thousands of years. In this video, I will share with you simple yet powerful secrets to communicate persuasively and make an impact. Stay until the end, because you'll not only learn how to control your words, but also how to earn the respect of others. Are you ready? Let's get started. And before diving into the main content, I want to sincerely thank all of you for watching this video. If you find this topic interesting and helpful, don't forget to hit like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss valuable lessons inspired by Stoic philosophy. Your support is the greatest motivation for me to continue delivering more meaningful and valuable content. Thank you, and I hope you have a truly rewarding experience. Principle 1. Show calmness and control your emotions. Imagine you are in a tense debate. Perhaps it's a meeting at work where your opinion is suddenly challenged. The other person raises their voice, using sharp and provocative words. The whole room suddenly feels stifling, and all focus shifts to the two of you and them. A part of you feels anger rising, your heart rate increasing, and your mind starting to plan a rebuttal immediately. This is a natural reaction, because when attacked, our instinct is to respond to defend ourselves. But what happens if you react hastily while your emotions are still in control? You'll let anger speak for you, and instead of showing confidence, you risk losing your image in front of others. However, you choose to do it differently. Instead of diving into the argument, you pause. You take a deep breath, allowing your breath to bring you back to a balanced state. You raise your head, relax your shoulders, and calmly look at the other person. The room waits for your response, but you simply speak slowly and clearly. I understand your point, but let me share my perspective. Silence fills the room. The attacks suddenly lose their weight. The person across from you feels unsettled because they can't pull you into the emotional spiral they've created. The people around you begin to look at you differently, with respect. Not only have you regained control of the situation, but you've also sent a powerful message. You are someone who knows how to master yourself. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You cannot control the words and actions of others, but you can control how you respond." This is one of the core principles of Stoic philosophy. In life, we cannot prevent others from criticizing, insulting, or making things difficult for us, but we can decide how we react. When you lose your temper and respond hastily, you give control of your emotions to others. But when you pause, breathe, and respond calmly, you reclaim your power and demonstrate confidence and maturity. That is not weakness. It is a sign of extraordinary inner strength. Calmness also holds another special power. It gives your words weight. Impulsive, emotionally charged words are often thoughtless and hurtful. But when you speak in a calm and composed state, every word you say is considered and carries significance. The listener cannot take your words lightly or ignore what you say. They will listen more carefully and respect you more. In psychology, this is called the leadership effect. When you remain calm in tense situations, you naturally project an image of reliability and authority. Those around you will look to you as a model of stability and wisdom. So, how do you practice calmness in situations like this? Start by controlling your breathing. When emotions start to rise, stop and focus on your breath. Take a deep breath through your nose, hold it for a few seconds, and exhale slowly through your mouth. This will help you quickly regain balance and calm. Next, practice speaking slowly and clearly. When you speak slowly, your voice will be steady and carry weight. This not only helps you control your words, but also ensures others pay attention to every word you say. Finally, don't rush to respond. Pause for a few seconds before answering, allowing yourself to think carefully and choose the wisest words. This brief pause not only demonstrates confidence, but also increases the other person's focus on you. Calmness is not something you achieve overnight. It is a skill that must be cultivated over time. But when you learn to master your emotions, you'll discover something remarkable. You're no longer easily provoked by negative words or actions meant to provoke you. You won't be drawn into meaningless arguments. Instead, you'll become the master of the conversation, intelligently and confidently. In a world where everyone is in a hurry to prove themselves, calmness is a rare form of power. The next time you face a stressful situation or a difficult debate, remember, pause, breathe, and speak with absolute calmness. Don't let others drag you down to their level with anger. Show them who you are, someone who masters themselves, someone worthy of respect. As Marcus Aurelius said, no one can make you angry unless you allow them to. Principle 2. Listen and show empathy. Imagine a tense room during a meeting between two groups with opposing views. Sharp words, tense stares, and defensive attitudes make the atmosphere suffocating. It's a familiar scene we've all encountered. When everyone is busy defending their own perspective, no one listens anymore. Conversations like these rarely lead to any solutions. But then, my team leader did something simple, yet incredibly powerful. He sat quietly, listened to each person, and when they stopped speaking, he looked them straight in the eye with sincerity and said, "I understand why you feel that way." These seemingly simple words suddenly brought the room to a pause. The tension eased by half, and the other person began to lower their voice, opening up more in their sharing. Instead of confrontation, that meeting turned into a collaborative discussion. I suddenly realized that sometimes listening and showing empathy are the keys to transforming conflict into connection and respect. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen more than we speak." This teaching reminds us of a simple truth often forgotten. People have a deep desire to be heard. When you truly listen to someone, you're giving them a precious gift: acknowledgement. In every interaction, whether in work or personal life, showing that the other person's opinion is valuable and worth listening to is the deepest form of respect. At this point, you don't need to say much to prove anything. It's the quiet but focused attention that makes others admire and respect you even more. Imagine this. You're sharing your thoughts with someone, and suddenly they interrupt you with a question. But instead of dismissing or imposing their view, the question is asked gently, with genuine curiosity. "That's interesting, could you share more?" Or, "I'd like to understand better. What makes you think that way?" What happens in that moment? Immediately, you feel respected and understood. That question sends a clear signal that your opinion is being heard, that the other person truly cares about what you're saying and isn't just waiting for their turn to respond. In a world where people often speak to protect their ego or showcase themselves, someone pausing to genuinely explore your perspective is a rare and precious act. It not only makes you feel more at ease, but also creates a safe space for you to open up and share more. At that point, you no longer feel judged or pressured to defend yourself. The defensiveness fades, giving way to genuine connection. Listening is not about sitting silently and waiting for your turn to speak. It is proactive and purposeful. In communication psychology, active listening creates the connection effect. When you nod, maintain eye contact, and even repeat back the key points of what someone said, you make them feel understood. This not only eases tensions, but also opens the door for them to share more openly and honestly. Try saying, "If I'm not mistaken, your point is," or "I think your perspective is quite interesting. Could you explain further?" Sometimes just one small sentence is enough to make someone feel that you truly value them. Acknowledging the other person's viewpoint is an art that requires both skill and sincerity. You don't have to agree with them, but simply saying, "I understand why you feel that way," or "That's a perspective worth considering," can break down defensive barriers between both sides. People tend to argue most fiercely when they feel their opinions are being dismissed. But when you show that their perspective is worthy of respect, they will also become more open to you and begin to listen to your point of view. This forms the foundation for constructive dialogue instead of confrontation. One of the most powerful tools in communication is asking questions instead of arguing back. When you ask, "What makes you think that?" or "Could you share more of your perspective?" you not only show genuine curiosity, but also encourage the other person to dig deeper into their thoughts. Instead of immediately pushing back and turning the conversation into a battle of reasoning, these questions create space for both sides to reflect and find a solution together. This not only helps you stay calm, but also makes you someone who influences and wisely leads the conversation. Active listening and empathy are not just communication skills, but also expressions of emotional intelligence and inner maturity. They require you to set aside your ego, temporarily forget the need to prove yourself, and instead give your full attention to the other person. It may seem simple, but it demands patience and sincerity. And when you practice this, you'll realize something profound. True strength doesn't lie in speaking more or winning an argument, but in creating connection and mutual respect. Next time you find yourself in a tense conversation or heated debate, remember, instead of rushing to speak your mind, pause and listen. Show them that their opinion matters and deserves to be valued. As Epictetus taught, listen more, speak less. That is how we find wisdom and earn respect. It is through listening and empathy that you will become a trustworthy and highly influential person in the eyes of others. Principle 3. Use stories to connect and inspire. Imagine a simple message like, "Take responsibility for your life." If stated outright, it might come across as a dry criticism or a rigid command. But when placed in the context of the story of Pinocchio, a wooden puppet controlled by invisible strings, the picture becomes much more vivid. We see ourselves in Pinocchio, sometimes being pulled by the strings of societal pressure, family expectations, or inner fears. Only when Pinocchio bravely cuts those strings can he become his true self, a free and responsible individual. This story resonates not because it's complex or preachy, but because it awakens empathy and deep reflection. Each of us must rise up, take control of our lives, and act, starting with the smallest things, like cleaning our own room. Why do stories have such power? As the Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "If you want to teach someone, start with what they can understand." Humans aren't always persuaded by dry logic or rigid advice. Instead, we connect more deeply with stories because they tap into our emotions. Symbolic stories allow us to see issues from a different, gentler, and more profound perspective. They don't say, "You must do this." Instead, they whisper, "Here's the path, explore it yourself." From a psychological perspective, the human brain loves stories because they create emotional connections and help us remember messages more easily. A good story not only paints a picture in the listener's mind, but also places them in the situation, encouraging them to imagine and reflect. Think about it. When someone shares a sincere personal story, you empathize with it and remember it far better than a dry lecture full of theories. For example, instead of telling someone to value their time, you could share a story about a person who procrastinated and missed a life-changing opportunity. By the end of the story, the listener will naturally draw their own lesson, feeling as though they've discovered it themselves. When telling a story, remember that emotional connection is the key. Sharing personal experiences or real-life situations makes the story more relatable and authentic. Don't worry if your story isn't perfect or overly dramatic. What matters is that it reflects a meaningful lesson. For instance, you might share the first time you realized the value of listening to others instead of trying to prove you're right. Or something even simpler, like a moment when you learned a lesson from your own mistakes. Sincerity always carries far more power than any technique. After telling a story, don't forget to tie it back to the message you want to convey. Asking a question like, "What do you take away from this story?" Or concluding with something like, "I realize that sometimes the smallest changes can make the biggest difference," helps embed your lesson deeply into the listener's mind. This is the art of turning a story into a powerful tool for inspiration. Additionally, using metaphors and symbolic imagery can make your message more vivid. Classic tales like Pinocchio, familiar symbols like a calm lake to represent composure, or historical figures overcoming adversity make it easier for listeners to relate and connect emotionally. Metaphors are a simple yet elegant way to illustrate abstract ideas. For example, when talking about facing fear, you could share the image of a knight in legend who must step into the darkest forest to find the treasure. We all have our own dark forests, and that story becomes an invitation for them to courageously face theirs. Stories not only help you convey your message effectively, but also build a powerful connection between people. When you tell a story, you're opening a door for others to step into your world. In that moment, you're not just a speaker, you're a companion and a guide. That's the power to inspire and earn the respect of your listeners. So, the next time you want to persuade or inspire someone, start with a story. Share something genuine, relatable, and meaningful. When the story ends, the listener won't just remember you, they'll remember the message you brought to them. As Seneca once said, "If you want to lead, begin by helping others understand you." A story is the bridge that leads from your heart to theirs. Principle 4. Set clear boundaries. Anna is a close friend of mine, someone who lived by the philosophy of always saying yes. For her, agreeing to help others was a way to build relationships, prove herself reliable, and be well-liked. She believed that saying no was selfish and meant missing opportunities to prove her worth. But behind her ever-ready smile, Anna slowly became an exhausted and worn-out version of herself. Her evenings were filled with other people's tasks, and her weekends were no longer her own. One day, when a colleague asked her to take on yet another urgent project, Anna did something she had never dared to do before. She took a deep breath, kept a calm tone, and said, "I'm sorry, but I can't take this on right now." For the first time, she chose to prioritize herself instead of pleasing others. The room froze for a few seconds, but to her surprise, no one criticized her. On the contrary, they seemed to respect her more. Anna's story is a powerful example of a lesson from the Stoic philosopher Epictetus. Do not let others control you. Set boundaries and protect your values. Setting boundaries is not just about protecting yourself from burnout. It's also a way to teach others how to treat you. When you constantly say yes to every request, you don't just lose your precious time and energy, you also devalue yourself. Boundaries are an invisible wall that protects your personal space, helping you maintain balance and focus on what truly matters. But why are we so afraid to say no? In psychology, This fear stems from a deep human need for acceptance and belonging. We fear being judged as selfish, losing affection, opportunities, or even social status. However, when you consistently put others' needs above your own without question, you'll quickly fall into a state of exhaustion, imbalance, and even disappointment with yourself. Like a glass of water that's never refilled, you cannot keep giving without taking time to replenish your own energy. History also shows us the power of setting boundaries. Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, was famous for saying no to ideas or projects that didn't align with his vision. He once said, "Focus is not just about knowing what to do, but also knowing what to say no to." It was his ability to set clear and firm boundaries that enabled him to lead Apple to become one of the most innovative and successful companies in the world. So how can you set boundaries in a skillful and effective way? First, you need to clearly understand your values and priorities. If you don't know what's most important to you, you'll easily get swept up in others' demands and expectations. Take time to write down your priorities in life, from work and family to health and personal interests. When someone asks you to do something, ask yourself, does this align with my values and priorities? Second, learn how to say no, confidently and gracefully. You don't need to offer long-winded justifications or feel guilty. A simple statement like, "I'm sorry, but I can't do that right now," is enough. When you say no, you affirm your values and show respect for your own time. Don't fear disappointing others. Their disappointment is only temporary, but in the long run, they'll respect you more for standing up for your boundaries. Finally, be firm with the boundaries you set. When you refuse a request, some people may try to challenge you with persuasion or emotional pressure. Don't change your decision just to please them. Remember this: other people's comfort is not more important than your peace of mind and mental health. This firmness will help you build a balanced, meaningful, and truly fulfilling life. Setting boundaries is not selfish, it's an act of self-respect and self-love. When you honor your own limits, you attract healthier, more meaningful relationships. People who truly respect you will understand and accept your boundaries, while those who seek to take advantage of you will naturally drift away. When faced with a request that you don't want to or can't fulfill, remember Epictetus's teaching. Do not let others control you. Set boundaries and protect your values. Learning to say no at the right time will be the key to reclaiming your freedom and taking charge of your life. Start today, because you deserve to be respected. And that can only happen when you respect yourself first. Principle 5. The art of silence and pausing. There's a famous saying, "Silence is the precious ornament of the wise." When you know how to use silence at the right moment, you not only project confidence and composure, but also create space for your wisdom to shine. Silence is not a sign of weakness or a lack of ideas. On the contrary, it is a mark of control and inner strength, a quality that earns admiration and respect. Imagine this. You're in an important meeting, and a colleague suddenly criticizes your idea harshly. As all eyes turn to you, the natural reaction might be to immediately defend or justify yourself. But instead of reacting quickly, you choose silence. You take a deep breath, maintain a calm gaze, and pause for a few seconds. That moment becomes an invisible wall, blocking the wave of emotions rising within you while sending a powerful message. I am in control of this situation. I will respond when I'm ready. When you finally speak after that pause, your words will carry more weight, precision, and credibility. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "Do not speak unless you have something worth saying. Do not fill the silence with superficiality." This is not just advice about communication, but a guiding principle for the wise. In today's noisy world, where everyone tries to assert themselves by speaking more and louder, those who know when to remain silent stand out as extraordinary and different. Timely silence is like a cool breeze on a scorching summer day, bringing calm and clarity to everyone around. Why does silence hold such immense power? The answer lies in human psychology. When you remain silent, you create a void in the conversation, a void that makes others curious, attentive, and even reflective. Think back to the most memorable speeches or moments in your life. Was it not the silences, the pauses, that made someone's words so profound and impactful? A renowned speaker once shared, "Words are like musical notes, but it's the pauses between the notes that create a beautiful melody." When you master the art of pausing, you use that space to highlight your message and set the rhythm of the conversation. Silence is also a powerful weapon when facing conflict or provocation. In a heated argument, your silence can throw the other person off balance and force them to reflect on their own words. When someone says something provocative, reacting too quickly can easily turn the conversation into a futile battle of words. But if you remain silent, holding their gaze with calm composure, you assert control over the situation and compel them to think again. In such moments, silence is not surrender. It is a declaration of confidence and emotional mastery. Beyond conflict, silence is a way to show respect and deep listening. When someone speaks, instead of interrupting or rushing to give your opinion, you choose to listen in silence. Your focus and attention will make them feel valued. This not only diffuses tension, but also creates space for constructive dialogue. Try speaking less and listening more. You'll be surprised at how others will naturally want to listen to you in return. Silence is also a tool for self-control. In Stoic philosophy, the ability to control one's emotions is seen as the key to achieving inner peace and earning the respect of others. When you pause in the face of a difficult situation or an important decision, you give yourself time to think, ensuring that your words and actions come from reason rather than impulsive emotions. The greatest leaders, speakers, and philosophers in history understood the art of silence. They knew that sometimes saying nothing at all is the most powerful response. For example, Mahatma Gandhi once left a crowd speechless by choosing silence instead of responding to insults. His silence not only demonstrated his tolerance, but also showcased his unshakable inner strength. So how can you practice the art of silence? Start with small pauses in conversations. Before responding to someone, pause for a few seconds to think. When emotions rise, instead of reacting immediately, take a deep breath and let silence cool the fire within you. In important discussions, use pauses to emphasize your message. Don't fear silence. Allow it to become a powerful tool that helps you take charge of communication and create a deeper impact. As Seneca said, silence is strength. It never weakens you, it only makes you stronger. The next time you feel the urge to fill the void with words, remember that sometimes the right silence is the wisest and most profound answer. Those who know how to remain silent are those who know how to listen, reflect, and most importantly, respect themselves. This quality will make you a trustworthy and influential presence in any conversation. Remember, every word you speak carries weight if you know how to use it effectively. A calm statement during a heated argument can dissolve tension. A well-timed silence can say more than 1,000 words. A sincere story can open the door to deep connections. And the courage to say no can affirm your true value. Try applying one of these 5 principles in your next conversation. You might be surprised at how others respond and at the changes you'll notice within yourself. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss future lessons. And please leave a comment sharing your experiences. I'm eager to listen and learn from you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Always be the master of your words, emotions, and actions.